Good afternoon, guys. How are you? Welcome back to SNM Academy, where we make learning easier for everyone. So today's lesson, we are going to talk about scale drawing. We're going to talk about scale drawing, and I want you in the comment section to tell me what is your idea about the scale drawing. But in simple terms, scale drawing is simply writing or simply the ratio of distance given on a map versus a distance on the actual ground. The reason why we use scale is because scale, when you are drawing something to scale, for example, you want to represent a building, you want to represent a road, you want to represent a piece of land on a map. You cannot fit a whole piece of land on a given paper. So what you do, you must compress. The process of compressing, that's when we come up with a scale so that the measurements that you want to use or the actual object can fit inside, I mean not inside, sorry, but can fit on a piece of paper. So in this case, I want us to talk about it. Scale drawing is simply the ratio of the distance on the map to a distance on the actual ground. Is simply the ratio of a distance on the map to a distance on the actual ground. For example, we might say that the distance from Nairobi to Thika is 40 kilometers. But now, if we want to represent 40 kilometers on a piece of paper, it is very, very impossible because a paper is small. But suppose there is someone else who needs that information. He or she can use a map and use the scale given to calculate the actual distance. Now, in this case, my viewers, it's very important for us to do it with examples so that it can be easy. A scale on a map is either given in form of a ratio or a fraction. It's either given in form of a ratio or a fraction. Now, this one here and this 500,000, what does it mean? This means 1 centimeter on a map. This stands for 1 centimeter on a map. 1 centimeter on a map stands for or represents 500,000 centimeters on the actual ground. 1 centimeter on a map represents 500 centimeters on the actual ground. And by the way, we have statement ratios, we have fraction ratios, and we have statement scales and ratio scales, and also fraction scales. So in this case, we're talking about the distance on a map is either given in this form or in this form. Is it either in form of a ratio or in form of a fraction? So this means 1 centimeter on the map represents 500,000 centimeters on the actual ground. Or 1 centimeter on the map again represents 500,000. But you see, this one is a fraction. It's a fraction. One against. And sometimes, not every time it will be 500,000. These figures can change. It can be 1:50. It can be 1/55. A scale depends on the person who is drawing and representing that information on the map. So in this case, for example, the scale of a map is given as 1 centimeter representing 4 kilometers. 1 centimeter representing 4 kilometers. This is a statement. 1 centimeter representing 4 kilometers. Express this as a fraction. Express this as a fraction. How do you express that as a fraction? Number one, if you want to express this one as a fraction, you must convert it. Why? Remember, it must be in centimeters. The units must be the same. Not necessarily centimeters, they can also be meters, but to make sure that 1 centimeter represents 500,000. So we cannot have 1 centimeter representing 4 kilometers when writing the scale. So what we do, we need to convert 4 kilometers into centimeters. 4 kilometers into centimeters. I want us to go step by step. So in this case, we're going to have 1 kilometer is equivalent to 100,000 centimeters. 1 kilometer is equivalent to 100,000 centimeters. Then from there, we ask ourselves, what about 4 kilometers? What about 4 kilometers? Close multiply. We're going to have 4 multiplied by 100,000 divided by 1. This is cross multiply technique, where we are going to have what? 400,000 centimeters. We're going to have 400,000 centimeters. So in this case, we already have our distance, or our 4 kilometers, in form of centimeters, where we have taken 100,000 multiplied by 4 to get 400,000 centimeters. Then from there, we can say that this means 1 centimeter on the map represents 400,000 centimeters on the actual ground. 1 centimeter on a map represents 400,000 centimeters on the actual ground. Then from there, you are told to write it in form of a fraction. So what is it going to be? 1 all over 400,000. 1 all over 400,000. That is our answer of interest. In another example, let me get another example here. We have an example. Oh, sorry. Let's use this one. The scale of a map is given as 1,000. 1 is to 250,000. 1 is to 250,000. This is it. The scale of a map is given as 1 is to 250,000. Find the actual distance in kilometer. Find the actual distance. This is where the question is. Find the actual distance in kilometers. That represents the length on the map now. So, number 1 is to find the actual distance in kilometers. So, actual distance in kilometers. Then from there, how long, or what is the length? What is the actual length that can be represented by 2 centimeters on the map? The question is by length of 2 centimeters on the map. So we have to convert, first of all, our scale. Either we first of all convert it into kilometers, then we multiply by 2, or we first of all say if 1 centimeter represents 250,000 on the actual ground. This means if we were to convert it to kilometers, we would say it is 250,000. Remember, we said 1 kilometer. We said 1 kilometer is equivalent to 100,000 centimeters. 100,000 centimeters. 1 kilometer is equivalent to 100,000 centimeters. What about 250,000? What about 250,000? What about 250,000 centimeters? This one will be 250,000 times 1 divided by 100,000. So we are talking about 2.5 kilometers. We're talking about 2.5 kilometers. So 1 centimeter here, I hope you can see, 1 centimeter represents 2.5 kilometers on the actual ground. Then from here, we are asked if 1 centimeter represents 2.5 kilometers. What about 2 centimeters? You cross multiply, it will be 2 multiplied by 2.5, which is going to be 5 kilometers. Meaning 2 centimeters will represent 5 kilometers. Based on the scale that we have been given. Then we have another one here. A map is drawn to scale. Of 1 is to 50,000. This means 1 centimeter on a map represents 50,000 centimeters on the actual ground. This means 1 centimeter on a map represents 50,000 centimeters on the actual ground. Write this scale in statement form. In statement form, you can write and say 1 centimeter on a map represent represent 50 50,000 centimeters of the actual ground. 50,000 centimeters on the actual ground. That is what it means in statement form. Then I want you to try and do this one. What is the actual distance in kilometer if the distance on a map is 12.7? If the distance on a map is 12.7. My viewer, I know this one now is simple. And allow me give you an idea of what you're going to do. You are going to take, if 1 centimeter represents 50,000 centimeters, what about 12.7? 12.7 will give you the total number of centimeters, the total number of the distance in centimeters. Then you convert that distance by dividing by 100,000, and then in the comment section, please pin the answer there so that I can mark and see whether you are correct or wrong. I go by the name Teacher Caleb, SNM Academy. We are here to make learning easier for you. And I hope you enjoy our content. And we want you to at least subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can get timely information on our learning. And learning is free. And for those people who want tuitions, we are open and we are ready to serve you with the best we can. Thank you very much.